We're heading into one of those NASCAR weekends that could tell us a whole lot about where this sport is going. Iowa isn't just another stop on the schedule this time. There's something different in the air. The biggest story heading into Iowa is NASCAR's new 750 horsepower short track package. This isn't simply about making the cars faster. It's about creating a much bigger challenge for every driver. The extra power means drivers will have more responsibility every time they get back on the throttle. When the green flag drops, every driver will have to deal with a completely different racing challenge. The next-gen car is going to move around more, and that means mistakes will become much more expensive. With multiple cars fighting for position, controlling the car through Iowa's tight corners will be absolutely critical. Even the smallest loss of rear grip could completely change a driver's performance later in the run. And that's exactly why this Iowa race could become one of the most important tests of NASCAR's new direction. NASCAR is increasing the horsepower by roughly 12%, but the goal goes far beyond simply creating faster lap times. The idea is to put more responsibility back into the driver's hands and make these cars harder to control. That additional horsepower comes from a larger tapered spacer, allowing more airflow into the engine. But horsepower isn't the only major change coming to Iowa this weekend. The short-track aerodynamic package also features a smaller rear spoiler and fewer diffuser strakes. That means drivers won't have the same level of aerodynamic stability helping them through the corners. And when you combine less aerodynamic grip with more horsepower, every throttle mistake becomes much more dangerous. A driver who gets too aggressive on corner exit could immediately spin the rear tires. That doesn't just cost a few positions in the moment. It can also destroy the tires for the laps that follow. So this package could force drivers to think much more carefully about when and how they use all that power. Iowa Speedway may be the perfect place to test this new philosophy because the track is short, technical, and extremely demanding. At just 0.875 miles, drivers have almost no time to relax between corners. Every lap requires braking, rotating the car, getting back to the throttle, and preparing for the next corner. With 750 horsepower available, aggressive throttle application can quickly turn into a major problem. A small mistake can spin the rear tires and create heat that follows the driver throughout the entire stint. That's why tire management could become one of the biggest stories of the entire race. One driver may dominate the opening 10 or 15 laps by attacking every corner. But 40 or 50 laps later, that same driver could suddenly find the car losing grip everywhere. Meanwhile, another driver who was patient early could become dramatically faster as the tires begin to fade. And that difference is exactly what NASCAR wants this new package to create. The tires might actually become the biggest storyline of the entire Iowa weekend. Goodyear conducted a 2-day tire test at Iowa, specifically working to understand how the tires would behave over long runs. The goal wasn't simply to create a tire that lasts. NASCAR wanted a tire capable of producing meaningful degradation that could completely change the way drivers approach this race. A driver who attacks aggressively from the start could gain track position, but sacrifice valuable tire life. Another driver might deliberately give up a little early speed to save the tires for the final stages of the run. That creates a completely different kind of strategic battle around a racetrack. Crew chiefs will have to decide whether staying out longer is worth the risk. They'll also have to determine whether fresh tires are more valuable than track position. And with so many variables changing throughout a 350-lap race, one strategy call could completely change the outcome. More horsepower doesn't automatically guarantee more passing, and that's something fans need to understand. The real advantage comes when one driver has better tires than the car they're chasing. With less aerodynamic stability, that difference in mechanical grip could become much more important. A driver with healthier rear tires may be able to launch harder off the corner and finally get alongside another car. That means passing could be created by tire management rather than simply raw speed. But the teams still have another massive challenge waiting for them: setup. If a car is too loose, controlling it could become extremely difficult once the tires begin wearing down. If the car is too tight, the driver may struggle to rotate through the corners and lose time every lap. Crew chiefs therefore have to balance mechanical grip aerodynamic balance, throttle response, and tire preservation. At Iowa's short distance, even a tiny setup mistake can become a huge problem surprisingly quickly. And that's why practice and qualifying could be more important than they normally are. Ryan Blaney already knows what it takes to win at Iowa after taking the inaugural Cup Series victory here in 2024. William Byron followed him by winning the Iowa race in 2025, but this year presents a completely different challenge. The previous Iowa notebooks still contain useful information, but the new package changes the entire equation. Engineers now have to determine which pieces of their old data are still relevant. And until the cars hit the track, nobody can know exactly how much the new package will change the race. That's why fans shouldn't get too excited about whoever leads the opening 20 laps. The real story could begin much later when the tires start falling away. Watch which cars lose rear grip as the green flag run continues. Pay attention to the drivers whose cars actually become faster after 30 or 40 laps. Because the driver who manages those tires best could be the driver standing in victory lane at the end. And that's where the championship picture makes this race even more fascinating. Denny Hamlin enters Iowa as the championship leader, while Tyler Reddick is right behind him. Ryan Blaney, Ty Gibbs, and Carson Hocevar are also sitting high enough in the standings to make this race extremely important. If this package rewards a certain type of driver, Iowa could create a major shift in championship momentum. Rick Hendrick believes putting more responsibility back into the driver's hands is exactly what NASCAR needs. Michael Jordan and the 2311 camp also see an opportunity for drivers who can attack while still protecting their equipment. Joe Gibbs believes communication between the driver and crew chief could become critical during long green flag runs. Denny Hamlin has offered a more balanced view, pointing out that horsepower alone won't fix NASCAR's racing problems. And Tyler Reddick's message is simple. Having more horsepower doesn't mean you should use it aggressively every single lap. And with all these championship contenders facing the same challenge, Iowa could reveal who truly knows how to manage this new package. Ryan Blaney has already warned that fans shouldn't rely too heavily on history because the track may be the same, but the race car certainly isn't. Ty Gibbs could benefit from a car that moves around because younger drivers who are comfortable catching slides may have an advantage. Kyle Larson faces an especially interesting challenge because his aggressive driving style could punish his tires if he isn't careful. Chase Elliott believes the extra horsepower needs enough mechanical grip to actually become useful for racing. And then there's Carson Hocevar, who has shown this season that he isn't afraid of difficult race cars. By Sunday night, we'll finally know whether NASCAR's 750 horsepower gamble has delivered what fans have been asking for. Iowa could reveal which drivers can balance aggression, throttle control, tire preservation, and patience better than everyone else. If the package produces real tire degradation and meaningful battles throughout the race, NASCAR could have something special. But if teams become too conservative just to protect their tires, the criticism surrounding this experiment will only get louder. Either way, Iowa is about to give NASCAR one of its clearest answers yet about the future of short track racing.